we made 5 movies in 7 years and 2 kids as well. And then, you know, COVID happened and the strike, and like, it was hard for a minute. And then we were so excited to get Don't Say Good Luck up and running. But I think it was hard for everyone, and it's really starting to feel like it's coming back now.
Life finds a way.
Life's not fair, is it?
Life moves pretty fast.
Life is a banquet.
Is he living?
What we doing live?
Way of life.
Life is being
You choose life.
Live a life you're proud. To live will be an awfully big adventure.
All right, you found us. Thank you so much for finding your way to the movie of your life with Richard Roeper. I've got Jennifer Weigel here, who is going to tell us about our special guest today.
All righty, Rich. Today on the movie of your life, we are joined by director and screenwriter Julia Hart. Now, Julia's films span high school drama in Miss Stevens, grounded superhero lore in Fast Color, tight 1970s crime in I'm Your Woman, and coming-of-age music in Stargirl. Her latest film, Don't Say Good Luck, is currently a hit on Netflix. It stars Sunny Sandler as a high schooler who lands the lead in Waitress while navigating her mother's cancer diagnosis. Alongside Melanie Lynskey, Max Greenfield, and Steve Buscemi. Ooh, and also Bebe Neuwirth, Rich. There were a lot of great names in this.
Quite a cast for this. And Sunny Sandler, of course. Her dad is also in show business, I understand.
That Adam
her
guy.
pops, Adam, who actually sent out an Instagram post quoting me, saying this is one of the most memorable movies of 2026.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad to help his career along as well if I can. And Julia has a really interesting backstory as well, Jennifer. I've had a chance to talk to her and get to know her a little bit over the years. As you mentioned, she's done a bunch of movies, one of Timothy Chalamet's first roles, different genres, and she's great at that. Her husband is Jordan Horowitz, who's a big-time producer, produced La La Land,
Yeah.
and they've worked together on a number of projects, including this one, Don't Say Good Luck. But for the non-Hollywood insider, you might not know Jordan's name, but you've probably seen the famous clip, because when La La Land was mistakenly announced as Best Picture at the Academy Awards, there was a mix-up at the envelope, and there was chaos on stage, and all these people from La La Land were on stage, and Jimmy Kimmel was trying to, and poor Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were over here. Jordan Horowitz was the one who kind of went into producer mode and set the record straight.
This is not a joke. Moonlight has won Best Picture. Moonlight, Best Picture.
Her father, actually, Jim Hart, wrote the screenplay for Hook, and also Contact, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, I believe, right?
So films directed by Spielberg, Coppola, and Zemeckis, a giant in the industry. And, Contact's a movie. If people haven't seen it, it's this sort of, I always feel like Jodie Foster, that's basically you.
I love that movie.
There's all this science, but then there's all this mysticism and everything. And it's all three of these films. Well, Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think, got great reviews when it came out. But all three of these films really have had a renaissance in later years where people have revisited them. So she grew up with her father being, a major, major screenwriter. But then Julia didn't automatically go into it. She became a teacher, which is kind of fits into the fact that so many of her films she works with young people as well. So we're going to talk to her about Don't Say Good Luck. Julia, congratulations on the film Don't Say Good Luck. It's kind of hard to keep track of viewership when we talk about Netflix, but it's just millions and millions and millions and millions of viewers have seen this film. How does that feel to see your work shared with the world and the world embracing it?
It feels amazing. We actually just found out this morning that we were the #1 movie globally this last week. So that's very exciting. And as someone who, this was my 6th film, I made a lot of films that not a lot of people saw that had really passionate fans, which was amazing. So it feels really wonderful to make a Netflix film that a lot of people are seeing and that they're really connecting with.
I want to talk about the genesis of this. Laura Henkin wrote this original story, I guess, based partially on her own experiences. And then was that then brought to you?
Yes. So Laura is incredible. This was her true story, and it was her first screenplay. She's mostly a novelist. And we had a mutual representative, Olivia Blaustein, who shared the script with Jordan and me because she was like, I just think you guys would love this. And she was right. And then Laura and Jordan and I worked on it together on the script. And then Olivia had another great idea, which was that we should send it to Sunny Sandler, who also loved it and wanted to be a part of it. So that's how that all came together.
And great work, by the way. And for those who haven't seen it yet on the Netflix list, when you're looking for something to watch and boom, it pops right up there. Click it and view it. There's a deep storyline here. And I'm just going to tell you from a personal level, sorry, but I'm going through that right now. Exactly. With my mother.
Oh my
And so I was like, Rich, you could have given me a heads up on that one a little bit, just because I'm like, got my popcorn, I'm put in the movie, and all of a sudden it's like my life, but I'm obviously many years older than Sunny. However, it was so well done the way you balanced it with the humor and Laura obviously having that experience too. And from your years and teaching, you really did it perfectly. And so I want to congratulate that, because to have such a heavy content, but still get the beauty and the humor in it, it was just so well balanced. So great job.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. And I think what's been so moving for Laura and me as people see the movie is it's heartbreaking how many people have reached out who are going through a version of this or have gone through a version of this. You're going to make me cry. Um, and that the movie is cathartic.
Exactly. And so I would say to anyone out there that's listening to this conversation, if that shouldn't deter you from clicking and watching this movie. It should absolutely encourage you, because you will relate and you will feel good at the end. You will.
It was meant to be a hug.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It
Yes.
absolutely is, Julia. And Sunny Sandler, she's such a shining, bright light. If people haven't seen You Are So Not Going to My Bat Mitzvah, where she's so terrific. But can you talk about, the skill set that Sunny has to bring here, because she's doing the heavy drama, but this is also a musical within the movie, Waitress the musical. And, it takes it's a big swing to say, let's do full numbers within a story that's not a musical. Can you just talk about Sunny's approach and working with her?
Sunny is so phenomenal. She's honestly one of my favorite actors I've ever worked with. She was 16. She's 17 now. She was 16 when we shot it. She is such a professional. She is like so seasoned for a 16-year-old, but also still such a 16-year-old. Like, she's just such a remarkable young woman. She sings, she dances, she acts. And so it was in some ways just like the perfect part for her, because she came to the table with all of those talents already under her belt. And the part really does demand so much of the character, because she has to sing, because she has to dance, the range of emotions, the roller coaster. And Sunny is she's so talented, and she's such a bright light. She's Sunny.
Mhm.
Like her parents gave her the perfect name. But she's also such a hard worker.
And yes, for those, Sandler, obviously daughter of Adam Sandler, I thought to myself, because Adam has such a wonderful voice. He sings very well. She inherited those beautiful pipes. She's great with carrying a tune. I was very impressed.
And she sings with such emotion. I mean, I've done a lot of movies with music in them, and it's one thing to be able to sing. It's another to be able to be a character singing and going through this emotional journey that she goes on. And that's what I was so impressed by with Sunny's singing, is not just her skill set as a singer, but her ability as an actor to express all of the things that her character is going through song. I mean, it's remarkable. And again, 16 years old.
Well, I really appreciated that too, Julia, because, she's playing a character who's the age of her character. And as we know in the tradition of high school movies, I love Grease, but Stockard Channing and John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, they could have attended their 20-year reunion at the same time. By the end of Euphoria, I'm like, nobody ever looked like that walking down the halls of, Jacob Elordi, 6'5", and, great actor, but it was like, wow, the new teacher is pretty cool. So I appreciate that. And, we've talked a little bit about the cast, and then you have this, Melanie Lynskey, one of our best actresses, playing the mom. And then the generational thing with Bebe Neuwirth and Steve Buscemi. I want to talk first a little bit about Steve Buscemi playing a grandfather. When you get somebody like that cast, do you take a look at the script and go, let's find a little more space for this character that Steve Buscemi's playing him?
Yes. It was his first time playing a grandpa, which it was an honor to work with him, and also to work with him when he was playing a grandpa for the first time. And we went back into the script and we actually added a few scenes when we knew that Steve was going to be playing that part, because my God, you got to give Steve Buscemi some great material to work with.
I also thought John Lovitz had a great little, it was great to see him in there as well, working at the deli. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah. And he did so much amazing stuff with the few scenes that he's in. And Tomorrow is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And he just he crushed it.
Absolutely.
You know, Jennifer touched on the fact that, Julia, you were a teacher yourself, you know, even though you come from this kind of, you know, legacy, and we can talk about your father and the great screenplays he's written, but you didn't immediately lean into that. You were a teacher for quite a while.
Yes. So I was a teacher I grew up a witness to the film industry, and it's chaos and turbulence. And I was an English major in college, and I had a dream of being an English teacher, but I was also always a writer. My whole life, I was since I could start to write, I was writing stories. But then I was a teacher for 8 years, and I really loved teaching, and I feel like it's been such a huge part of my career as a filmmaker, both when I'm literally telling stories about high school and students and teachers and kids, but also when I'm just on a set having to, manage and corral a massive group of people. I find that a lot of my skill set as a teacher comes into play.
And one of the nice things about the film, too, is that I think it really captures the high school experience. And there have been, tons of great films about that. Obviously, we go back to John Hughes and things like that. But you really kind of remind us that there's this second family, just like there is in the workplace when you're older. But when you're in high school, your best friend and the drama you have there and the romance and again, I like that it doesn't go in the typical direction. And then the teacher or the advisor that means the world to you. And you're sometimes at a certain point in your life, maybe even feeling closer to those people than your parents and your siblings. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of showcasing that in the film?
It's funny, I don't know how people portray that if they haven't been an adult in a high school, because when we're utilizing our own experience as a high school student, there's so much that's clouding it, and there's so much time between now and then, and what it's like to be a kid versus an adult trying to depict that world. And so it was really special for me to go back to high school as a grown-up and have that experience from the other side. And that I find to be a huge part of how I explore the authenticity of what it means to set a film in that space. And then also when I was teaching high school English, I choreographed the musicals. The theater department didn't have an in-house dance teacher at the school I taught. So I choreographed musicals for 5 years there. And I actually went back when we were in prep on this movie. I went back to that high school and sat in. They were doing Mamma Mia, and I sat in on some of their rehearsals. And it's such a magical important. I mean, I was a theater kid, and so and then got to be an adult in those spaces with these high schoolers. And it's such a special, magical world as a kid, but also as an adult.
It's great. It's funny. I recently went back to my high school, one of these, go back to hometown TV features. Do you remember your high school locker combination? Because I remember mine.
Wow. No, but I do remember the landline phone numbers of my two best friends.
Yes.
We talked about that.
Exactly. It's the craziest thing. You talked about how you've done a number of films now, Julia, and prolific and different genres, which I really appreciate. It's hard to get a movie done. You know this. I mean, we've got in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking to Patty Jenkins, who directed Monster in 2003. And then it was 2017 before she did Wonder Woman. There were a lot of things she did in between then, but a lot of it was just because things fell apart. Does it help with Jordan that you've got a partner and a best friend and a spouse who knows the producing side as well as anybody in the business as you're navigating all that and actually trying to get a movie made?
I was literally about to say before you said that, I think it's because I'm married to one of the greatest working producers in the business. So I'm very lucky. But he is just he's so good at making things happen. And, we made 5 movies in 7 years and 2 kids as well. And then, COVID happened and the strike and it was hard for a minute. And then we were so excited to get Don't Say Good Luck up and running. But I think it was hard for everyone. And it's really starting to feel like it's coming back now. I'm here in my production office talking to you today in Chicago about to make another movie. But it really, I don't think we talk enough in this industry about the value of a great producer who really gets how movies work and how things get made. And I think sometimes that's where things fall apart or go wrong. But things fall apart and go wrong for us too, But I think with someone who really knows what they're doing, it definitely happens less.
I loved the part where Melanie Lynskey is sharing with her daughter because her daughter was prompted by the drama teacher and director, ask your mother what it was like to be pregnant with you. And you just talked about creating a couple of kids and all of that. Do you have a moment that you look forward to talking to your children about on what it felt like to be pregnant with them? Or did you play Stevie Nicks when they were in the womb also?
That was Adam.
That was
That
Adam.
was the Fleetwood Mac was Adam's edition, and it's one of my favorite things in the movie. And obviously, we ran with it, and it became a big inspiration musically for the movie. I wrote the speech about the indigestion and the having a lot of hair, which actually wasn't true for me in either of my pregnancies. But I had heard that from friends, and I just loved it so much. It was such a and Sunny has this like
Beautiful.
truly gorgeous head of thick dark hair, and so I thought that was a really lovely little anecdote to put in there. I think for me, the thing, if my two boys ever care to hear about what it was like to be pregnant with them, I think the thing that was most surprising to me when I became pregnant that I would want to share with them was how I was in love with them instantaneously. Both times I was pregnant and I knew I was pregnant, I was like, when they were just like a teeny tiny grain of rice, like I was already completely smitten.
As a movie goer, as a consumer of films, I find, Julia, as we go through our lives, obviously our perspectives and our insights change. So as a daughter and a mom, have you gone back and watched something like Hook and seen how it affects you or impacts you differently now than it did maybe when you were a child?
Yes. And it's so funny that you mentioned Hook because that was the one that really knocked me out as an adult and a parent.
Oh, there you are, Peter.
Movie night with our boys. We have two little boys who are 8 and 12. Movie night in our home is sacred. And we had so much fun curating the film festival of their lives as parents and sharing those movies with them and we always make popcorn. We even have t-shirts that say Horowitz Family Movie Night. And I have to get bigger sizes actually now that I'm thinking of it because they're starting to go the current ones that we have.
Great.
But it's been really special and magical, especially Hook, sharing that with them because obviously my dad wrote it and I was around as a child who's about their age when it was getting made. And it's so beautiful how movies change. I remember watching E.T. with the boys during the strike. We showed them E.T. for the first time when we were all feeling so disheartened and disillusioned.
E.T. from home.
And it just like fully restored my faith in why all of this is worth fighting for and the magic of cinema and sharing a movie that you love with the people you love. So that's like honestly one of my favorite things about being a parent is getting to show them all those films that I love.
The Movie of Your Life podcast with Richard Roeper is brought to you by Wayfair Theaters. Wayfair Theaters has 2 locations, one in Highland Park, Illinois, and one in Payson, Utah. For all showtimes, go to wayfairtheaters.com. Not only do they show your blockbusters just around the block, but live events and even live comedy. Remember, wayfairtheaters.com, click on events to find all those special and unique opportunities near you.
Julie, I wanted to start off by asking, what's the first movie that you saw in a theater that really made an impression on you? Can you recall what that might have been?
I remember there was a reissue of Snow White that I think that's one of the first movies I remember seeing in a theater. I don't know what year it was. I'd be curious to go look. I remember seeing a reissue of Snow White on the big screen because I'd seen all of the Disney animated movies at home on my television. And I remember seeing the cutout of Snow White in the lobby and she was like life size. And I thought like the cardboard cutout. I remember thinking that was so amazing that she was life size and then seeing her basically life size on the screen and just watching the magic of that exquisite animation and music and storytelling. I think that's the first one for me.
We recently had a conversation with Jane Lynch, who mentioned that The Music Man was one of the most poignant for her that she could watch over and over and over again. As a lover of musicals, do you have a musical made into a movie that you could just never get enough of?
Probably the one that I watch the most is Hello, Dolly. I love that movie so much. Put on your Sunday clothes when you feel down and out, like that whole big first musical number. I cry every time I watch it. And the fact that it's like Gene Kelly behind the camera and Barbara Streisand on camera, who two of my favorite legends from movie musical history. There's just something about that movie that I can, like, anytime I'm feeling sad, if I put that movie on, it just like brings me back to life.
Wow.
And then I loved the use of it in Wall-E. Like, I love when a movie takes a movie and like recreates it and makes it this new special version of itself. So yeah.
That's beautiful.
That
You
was, oh, sorry. That
No, I
was
was
just
just
such an
gonna say.
interesting time in Hollywood because you still were getting these big musicals, Oliver and Hello, Dolly, and then you were getting Easy Rider in 2001 over here. You could feel the generation gap in the world
Yeah.
through the cinema at the time. What about when you go to the movies, Julia, as a fan? Do you have a place where you sit in the theater? Are you an aisle person, dead center, way in the back?
We try to do like halfway up kind of center, the four of us, you know, wherever the best place is to get the four seats. Like, it would be nice if you could just get the same four perfect seats every time, but we try to get close to that.
Well, also as a writer and now a director, what movie did you see that you thought, I can do this? I want to do this.
You know, it's funny because my dad was a screenwriter and I had kind of decided to move into teaching away from being in film. I grew up, my parents showed me a million movies and I grew up with like seeing all the classics and totally loving cinema. But, you know, as an adult, I was starting to wrestle with like, do I really want to be a teacher for the rest of my life? Or is there always going to be this voice in the back of my head if I don't give screenwriting a chance? Because it was going to be screenwriting first and then directing came later. And I went to see Black Swan.
Not so controlled. Seduces. Not just the prince, but the court, the audience, the entire world. Come on. The fouettés are like a spider spinning a web. Attack it! Attack it! Come on!
Jordan and I went to see Black Swan, and I loved that film so much. It was like towards the end of my teaching career, right before I like decided to make the switch. And there was something about that film that just completely blew me away. And I had that exact feeling and thought that you're describing, which is like, I want to do this. This is the thing that I want to do.
It's interesting you say Black Swan because we talk a lot about, you know, if you're clicking around in certain movies, you know, you stop on, oh my God, it's Goodfellas. I'm going to watch it for the next half hour. Black Swan's one where I actually go past it too quickly because I have to be ready for it. I can't just jump in. It's too terrifying in certain moments.
It's not. I've seen a terrible number of times. It just like every image of that movie is burned into my brain. And I was a dancer. And so, and Bob Fosse, like, if I had to pick like one artist for all time, it would be Bob Fosse. And so there was something about the time that I saw that movie in my life and this turning point in my life where I was like about to start thinking about having kids and like, is this really the career that's going to be my story forever? That movie just nailed it for me.
Funny you mentioned that too. I probably watched the first 9 minutes of All That Jazz about once a month because it's better than most complete movies. It's so well done.
The opening of All That Jazz is one of my all-time favorite films, but the opening of that movie, like, my God, like cinema.
Say there's always magic in the air.
If we had to tell the aliens, if we had to explain to the aliens what's cinema, like, it would be the opening of All That Jazz.
Last question before we let you go. We like to end with Julia. If you could visit the set of any film in history for a day and just be a fly on the wall, any film in the history of the medium, where would you like to be? What film would that be?
Oh my gosh. Probably Singing in the Rain.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
There are other movies that are maybe like I would probably want to be on a set that Bob Fosse was on. But like, to me, I can imagine the joy. Like I would want to visit on the day that they were doing Singing in the Rain and like flooding that soundstage with rain, and just like the playback and the joy and the life, I just think would have been such an incredible thing to witness.
I love that. On that note, we're going to say thank you so much. Don't Say Good Luck is the film. Julia, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you both so much. This was so wonderful to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget to subscribe and share The Movie of Your Life with Richard Roeper, brought to you by Wayfair Theaters.